7 o'clock already? It says 5 till.
We're live.
It's 7 o'clock.
All right.
I'd like to call the Select Board meeting and public hearing on Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 to order. And first, we want to on my left is Roger Hicks, who's been re-elected to the Select Board. On my right is Jack Regala, and my name is Mary Hoffman. We'd like to congratulate Roger Hicks for being re-elected to the Select Board. He won by a landslide. And then we'd like to extend our thanks to the election staff. They were really, really good. The only time they had any kind of a wait was between, I think, 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. They had about a 20-minute wait, which, you know, if you lived in Portland or something, you might have had a 2-3 hour wait. So 20 minutes we think is realistic. And we'd also like to thank all the voters that came out to vote and the people that voted absentee. I know it was a long ballot to vote on, and we appreciate you voting. So I need a motion to open.
Make a motion to open the public hearing to review the town's application for a $2 million grant from USDA Rural Development.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And so the reason that we're having this is because, as you know, we applied for a federal grant and we got approved, and then it goes to the state for them to approve it. And they have all kinds of, they're daring me to say this, wickets that you have to go through. And we're finally almost done, but one of the wickets that we had to have a public hearing to review the application for rural development for the $2 million grant. And is there anybody on the public that has any questions? So we're almost done with that process, and we're hoping to get approval for the beginning of the project to start, hopefully, the beginning to middle of July. So.
No one on Zoom or?
Nope.
Nope.
So I need a motion.
Okay.
Motion to close public hearing and reconvene select board meeting.
Second.
And does everybody approve?
Yes.
Yes. And then I'd like to introduce our two speakers for tonight. Lee Klarman and Tanner Skilton are from the Community Impact. They're the Community Impact Directors at the United Way of Southern Maine, and they wanted to come and present about Hollis, what their findings were in a study, right, Lee?
Yeah, that's right. So at the United Way of Southern Maine, we're here to talk about some financial hardships in Maine, Southern Maine, and specifically Hollis. So again, my name is Lee Klarman.
And I'm Tanner Skilton. I'm one of the relationship managers with United Way.
So I'm a Hollis resident. I live right down the road on River Road. I'm also a member of the Hollis Conservation Commission, as well as the alternative commissioner for Hollis on the Saco River Corridor Commission. So what we're here is just to provide some information on a demographic that we have come to know as ALICE, Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So not asking anything of you of the select board, but to consider how we can all support these neighbors of ours. As United Way works to support these community members, I do feel it's incredibly important to include you all in this conversation, since this is my community and my neighborhood. So I want to ensure that this part of our community is supported and thriving. So if this is something that resonates with you all or anyone in the community, we would be happy to discuss more specifics of ways United Way or ways the Select Board can assist these members of Hollis. Next slide. One before that, actually. Sorry. So yeah, we're there. Okay. So again, ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So there's a growing population of households in the U.S. to earn income above the federal poverty level, but still not enough to get by. So these are our children's teachers, our grandparents, care workers, and the service industry workers who fuel our economy. So when funds run short, these households are forced to make impossible choices, such as deciding between childcare or paying the rent, filling a prescription, or fixing the car. Basically, the cost of living outpaces what they earn, leaving them with little to no savings for emergencies in the future. So 8% of households in southern Maine are traditionally seen as living in poverty. They're below the federal poverty line. And another 30% of households are what we have identified as this Alice group. So this means that nearly 40% of households do not have enough income to cover the basic costs of living. So this is southern Maine, so this is York and Cumberland County we're looking at right now. Next slide. So the financial hardships span all ages, genders, races, and ethnicities in southern Maine. The largest demographic groups in Maine also have the largest number of Alice households. So the aging baby boomer generation is not only the largest age group in Maine, but they're the age group with the most substantial increase in the number of Alice households. So 42% of the Alice population is 65 plus. As we know, financial hardships do not land equally, so some groups are more likely to be within Alice than others. So 7 out of 10 single female-headed households with children do not make enough income to cover the basic cost of living. Black households also experience financial hardships at higher rates. And while our population of residents under 25 is small, that group has much higher rates of financial hardships. Next slide. So now looking at a more granular level, you can see Hollis there. So you can see there's, and this was the most updated in 2024, so out of 1,869 households in Hollis, 742 have been identified as struggling to make ends meet. So about 40% of households here in Hollis. And these are all households that do not qualify for public assistance, so they're not able to get help otherwise. Next slide. This one.
So just a little bit about, actually, can you toggle back to the last slide? A little bit about, we're here because Lee is a resident of Hollis, but I'm here as well accompanying Lee. I work with all municipal partners within the footprint of Cumberland County and York County on behalf of United Way of Southern Maine. And as you can see, and Lee was pointing out that almost around 40% of all of your residents are asset limited, which is a concern for us. It's a concern, I'm sure, for your town and for yourselves as a part of the leadership of your community. So we really wanted to kind of put this into a visual perspective that Hollis is pacing, unfortunately, close to places like Westbrook, where perhaps you would expect more asset-limited households based on a larger population center, and places like Portland or places like even Kennebunk are not far off. So I think it's important to acknowledge that Hollis is not alone in this struggle, but it is important to acknowledge that 40% of one's town being asset limited is concerning. Next slide, thank you. So federal poverty line is misleading. I think that there's a lot of imaging and imagery or thoughts that come to mind when you think of people that are poor. And the federal poverty line is a classification that was created, I believe, in the 1950s based on the cost of groceries as that associates to how much one makes. That's a time when, 4-member households, there was one person working, one person at home, kids at home. So the federal poverty line for folks that are asset limited in this Alice family household, if you make above the federal poverty line, you are not entitled to social services like food stamps or rental reimbursement. So it is a spectrum of people, a large group of people that are financially treading water, if you will, and not getting assistance from the government. So we're working with municipal governments. We are working at the state level as well to try to reclassify the concept of what it means to be financially successful or poor, if you will. Next slide. So there's a lot on this. There's a lot to look at. I'm going to go over a couple of them, but basically this is going to, this chart for folks at home or for people here, this chart is going to be illustrating what we would classify as household survival budget. It's hard to look at because this is an average of all in Southern Maine. So it's an average for all of these expenses, whether it's in Cumberland County or in York County. So if you'll see the first one, a single adult, the average rental expense for someone, they need $980 to go towards rent. That's what they're going to spend. Their utilities, so internet, things like that, $160. Childcare, you see, is obviously zero because they're not paying for childcare. Scroll all the way, or look all the way at the bottom where it has annual total. So a person, they just to barely get by and have no money left, but not in the red, they need about $37,000. Which for a lot of people, and absolutely myself included when I first started working in Maine, that was more than my starting salary when I was like 22, 23, entering the working world. So this information, although the data would not be reflective of when I started working, I was absolutely asset limited. And then you look at what it is for a single older adult. It's more. They have more expenses. They have higher medical expenses. 2 adults, 2 children in childcare. They need to make just under $100,000 a year as a household just to get by. That number feels crazy high. I'm a child of both of my parents were public school teachers, and that number was never going to happen for our household. Any questions as well? I want everyone to feel very welcome to jump in and ask as we go. You can go to the next slide. Okay. So Alice works for low wages. We can see that we have common Alice industries or common roles of which Alice people fall into, which is healthcare, social assistance, retail, things like education instruction, ed techs, transportation and warehouse workers, job titles, the medium hourly wage, and then medium Alice threshold. So if you are working in retail, you need that $14.30, and the average is $15.11. It's a very, very small differential. They're putting away in savings or spending very small amounts, not enough to ever be classified as financially successful. We're thinking of things like home ownership, vehicle ownership, relocation if needed. Those things are not going to happen when there's not going to be a big enough gap between what they're making and what their survival budget is. Next slide, please. Alice spends too much on housing. I think if anyone has recently purchased a house or is in the process of wanting to purchase a house, this is a conversation that touches every county in the United States of America, is that home ownership or even rent is just seemingly too expensive right now. So 57% of Alice households or Alice individuals are rent burdened. 49% owner cost burdened. So out of all Alice homes, 57% of them, if they're renting, the rent is too much, and that is eating away any money that they have. 49%, if they're homeowners, so just about half, they're spending way too much. They're putting themselves in dangerous debt just to own the home, just to pay the mortgage down. Next slide. This one is tough. This one's important. So the reason why we keep comparing Alice to the federal poverty line is because of those programs and those incentives for people that are within the poverty line versus above. So you'll see the poverty line has pretty much not changed that much in the last decade, 8 years. And that's because the classification of the federal poverty line is extremely outdated. But Alice is growing, a growth rate of 42%. Next slide. So United Way helps Alice rise. In my role, I'm on a team called the Resource Development. All of us work with different sectors of the working world to organize giving campaigns. So, for example, I work with IDEX Laboratories, and I'll go and talk to IDEX about the unique needs of York and Cumberland County, and then I will ask them for money, quite bluntly. But the money that we get in corporate gifts from large companies or from perhaps small companies, individuals, municipal partners, go to programs like this. So for housing, we have things like the United Way of Southern Maine Housing Crisis Fund. For childcare, we have things like Biddeford Ready, which is a really big program in Biddeford, which is focused around getting pre-K aged children ready for kindergarten, first grade through reading. or financial stability. We offer, we work with Greater Portland Workforce Initiative, or CASH. CASH is a program which helps people that are asset limited file their taxes during tax season and have financial readiness courses so that we can be giving people personal kind of finance education so that they can know what they have to take in financially and how they can pay their bills for the best possible outcome. So go ahead. Did somebody have a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
When they donate money,
Mhm.
okay, I know United Way back when,
Yeah.
so much out of your pay and everything, and
Mhm.
kind of like controversy over administrative fees.
Yes.
So I'm looking at, so if they don't donate $1,000, let's say,
Mhm.
what percentage is that actually deal with Alice, or what percentage is administrative fees?
Do you know our administrative fee off the top of your head? I think I do know it, and I will get you a definitive answer just in case I'm wrong. But just for clarification, any processing fees we take covers the overhead for our company to exist. So that pays for things like our office, electricity, and our salaries, of which are nonprofit salary. I believe it's a 15%.
So 15% of the
15% of the donation would go towards our processing and paying people that we have, accountants and people like Lee and myself, along with like funding our programs. But an important part about what we do with donations that is still the same from whenever you perhaps had a interaction with United Way is people can direct their dollars. So for example, if you knew someone that really wanted to make a $1,000 donation, they wanted it to go to something like CASH, they can. Any other questions about that? No? Can I go to the next slide? Thank you. So these are a couple of kind of thoughts, closing thoughts that we want you to think about. And we're happy to have you engage now, or we can think about that. But it's, who do you know that might be Alice? Like, think about your network, your family, your friends, who perhaps fall into the classifications that we've just outlined. Why do you think Alice is growing in Hollis? And as I'm not a Hollis resident, so I would be very interested to hear why we think perhaps the Hollis Alice households are growing, and what opportunities do you see to support Alice households? Any thoughts from anyone in the room?
Well, I was surprised by your rent of 900 and something, because
I think it's 934 is the average
because that's
single.
not the rent in Hollis.
It's higher, I'm sure,
It's like 1,500.
for like a one bedroom
Yeah.
single occupancy.
I
That's so high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's even higher in Portland, is what I've heard.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
I think there will be
the rents have just gone.
Through the
they've
roof.
doubled.
Yeah,
in the
and that-
last year and a half.
every meeting that I do and do this presentation, which I've done several times in multiple municipal settings, people are very hung up on that number for a good reason. They all think that it sounds too low, which is interesting, because it's an average of everywhere. I mean, it includes places like, South Berwick, Portland, Yarmouth, Cape Elizabeth, Kennebunkport. And that number, that is the average for a single, but that could be something like a 500 square foot studio apartment. It's like truly one human can fit.
Right.
It does seem low. I've lived in Portland for a decade, and what the difference in what I'm paying in rent and what I'm making, of course I've made some career changes and entered the nonprofit world, but it's not catching up. So I'm putting a higher percentage of my annual income towards rental expenses than I did when I was 22 years old. And that seems weird. Anyone else? Are you thinking of folks, in Hollis that that would be Alice, and how you could support them differently? It's not.
Well, I
it's,
think there's a lot of people, but they won't come to you for support. I think people are very hesitant to ask
Mhm.
because I think they're very proud.
Yes.
And even if they're on the edge, they would just as soon go without something than to ask for help.
Was everyone in the room prior to this aware of 211? Are we familiar with 211?
Yeah.
Cool. I had never heard of 211 before starting. I've been working with United Way for a year. Never heard of it. 211 is completely anonymous. It can be done over a text message because you're right. It takes a lot to ask for help. And some people might not be willing to pick up the phone and say, I don't have enough to feed my family in 1 week's time from now. Like, we're not going to have enough for a few meals. But texting that might be a much lower barrier for people for something like food insecurity or a mental health struggle or the need to get an elder parent to a medical appointment. All of those things can be provided by 211 or at least resources. And 211, fully funded by United Way, they're one of our programs, 365, 24 hours a day. So that's a barrier. And however, we wanted to come and talk to you with Lee being a resident of your town, and we're just it's weird to say that we're excited to present this information because it's scary, but we're excited to present the information so that we can give all of the municipal partners in Southern Maine the most up-to-date information about the financial struggles that your residents are facing, and then illustrate to you how we can help. And we cannot just brush our hands and fix the problem, but we can give you information about where are the resources for the residents of Hollis, whether they're in Hollis or in the neighboring town, where's the closest, what works best for your residents, because that's what we're here to do. We're here just to try to make life a little easier for everybody.
The biggest question I get, because I do general assistance, is, well, you can't help me with my car because my car is broken. It needs fixing. I can't go to work if I don't have a car, you know.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I think that.
And then there's no public transportation.
I just assume
you know, I
there'd be
mean,
no
you
bus
can
here.
call. They give you a number to call, but they'll go, oh, well, we don't go to Portland after 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, you know. So.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you wanted to?
And I think we are interested in helping individual residents of Hollis, but also just working on changing policies that would help them. So rather than helping one person at a time, like working on the state level to change policies that would help, large swaths of people.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why we're coming to talk to municipalities like you all. You're going to some of the business connections we have, so we can work on providing better childcare, better access to childcare. So rather than helping one person that needs childcare, helping open up more childcare centers, and going up to Augusta to advocate for minimum wage increases and things like that. So it's as Tanner said, 211 is a great resource for individual people, and we're trying to work with large swaths of people to increase their standard of living, provide better access to higher education, reduce the barriers to be able to get another degree or be able to get a job training or get an internship or something like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, we just want you to know, at least with the work that I do with municipal partners, we're basically trying to do these meetings in every town. We had all of our employees of United Way reach out to their municipal governments and introduce themselves and say, we want to come and talk to you because we want you to feel comfortable coming and talking to us because we're a resource for you. If you have things that you have questions about, we're very easily accessible. We're happy to come and talk. We're happy to have a meeting over the phone or over a video chat. But Lee is right. We're trying to inspire policy change that will help the most people.
Right.
And what that looks like in Portland versus Hollis or York versus Kennebunkport are going to be very different. But we're here to provide the data. It's new, up to date in 2024. Basically just a new classification of how we're looking at people that are financially struggling.
And is eventually York County Community Action going to look, and people that provide benefits like SNAP and that going to be looking at the data too?
Yeah, I actually have a presentation that will be at the end of the month, beginning of July. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, we would love it if places that provide those benefits adjust how they do it based on sort of this information rather than federal poverty level, because not enough people, it's very hard to be employed at all and still get those benefits. You basically have to be unemployed to be able to receive any major benefits. So be able to allow people to be supported that aren't, I think it's, under $20,000 if you're a single person. So, that's,
That's not much money.
that's not much money. So anyone making more than that doesn't get any benefits. So yeah, I mean, ultimately we'd love if some of those policies around benefits were changed to reflect this, because they would be able to support more people that need
Right.
those services.
Right.
Yeah.
And just the cost of food and electric and
Absolutely.
electors, the CMP people are amazing to me, because they'll turn someone's power off if they only owe like $400, but somebody owes $4,000 or $5,000, they don't turn them off. I don't sort of
Right.
understand that concept, but
And I mean, every expenses, all of the increased expenses result in other tough issues. So the cost of food is going up so high, which will force people to purchase less nutritious food, which will result in health-based problems. And it's this like it's this tough cycle, and we really want to address it. I mean, it's obviously it's been here for a long time, but we're just trying to kind of recenter what does it look like to not have enough money to make it work, because families that are asset limited not only are kind of penny pinching, but they're not saving for things like secondary education for their children. They're not traveling. There's no trips to Europe or anything like that, which do result in opportunities for growth. And those kids are definitely not going to summer camps in Maine unless they're on full scholarships, and they're buying their ramen noodles, and it's this tough thing. And like, even now, okay, it's so hot, everybody's turning their AC on. Electric bills are going to be high this month. It's going to be a tough month for bills.
well, thank you.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks
us.
Appreciate it.
And Lee, can we have a copy of your slides, or are you going to leave us a copy?
Yeah, I think you've gone right. Yeah. So,
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
absolutely. Look at them,
Thank you.
share them, review them. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to discuss at any point.
Thank you. Any other thoughts before you?
That's it. Nice to see you all again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So under old business, we have a whole slew of meeting minutes to approve, but the good news is that everybody was present at them, so we can do them as a group, I think.
Sure, go for it.
So I make a motion that we approve the minutes for April 3rd, April 17th, May 1st, and May 15th.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think we might
we go.
have one more. Oh, no, those were May 15th.
Hmm.
And then we're up to new business. So because it's a new year and we just re-elected Roger Hicks, we need to elect the select board chair.
Make a motion, leave it the way it is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Come on, all in
Undo.
favor?
I think I'll abstain.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next.
And then we just started to receive the comprehensive plan from Southern Maine Planning and Development. I noticed that there's a lot of preliminary when I was reviewing it, there's a lot of sections that need updates from people in the town hall on numbers, because some of the numbers are 2015 and not up to date, so we'll have to look at that. But we do need to have a comprehensive plan review committee. I know we have one person has applied, so if there's anybody out there that would like to be part of the comprehensive plan review committee, please fill out an application and let us know.
Does that go to the planning board too?
Pardon?
I go to the planning board too.
I think it used to, but then they had a total separate committee for
Okay.
the review. You know, the planning board thinks that it's gonna come back to them eventually. So we'll have to look at that. And then we'd like to thank the members of the 5-member select board and town management committee that did the ordinance for us. We'd like to thank them for their service, and we have sent them out letters of thank you, and we are now dissolving their committee because they're done with their work as a committee.
And then under the ordinance.
So under the ordinance, we're going to be appointing a 5-member select board and town management hiring committee. And so if people would like to apply for that, they could fill out a committee application. We need to form them by September 1st. And members that we need is the members of the select board, us 3, and 2 appointed town employees, 1 elected and 1 non-elected, 1 member of the finance committee, 2 at-large residents of the town, and 1 member from the December 2023 5-member select board town manager ordinance committee. So if you'd like to be on that committee, please fill out an application and then we'll select members. Anything either one of you gentlemen would like to add about that?
Nope, basically covers it. Nope, that's it.
And then my favorite person to my left is going to go over the appointments.
All right.
We have a whole
appointments.
bunch.
Appointments for planning board, Heather Sullivan and Nicholas Herbert for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2027. This is a motion to appoint these people.
Right.
For Finance Committee, Shelley Brooks, Don Moran, Dan Uranium, Janet Gilmore for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2027. And for Deputy Code Enforcement Officer, Deputy Plumbing Inspector, and Deputy Building Inspector to Michael Gilpatrick. All terms expire on April 1st, 2025.
So I make a motion that we make those appointments as read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. All right. Last week's warrant was $581,348. This week's warrant is to be determined. It's not done yet. We moved the date up one day because tomorrow's a holiday. Payroll last week, $26,754. Payroll this week, $32,291. All right, purchase orders, 4324, Full Court Press, printing spring and summer newsletters, $1,067. 4391, HSC, final rounder replacement fire attack hose, it's for the fire department, $15,562. And 4393, Goodyear Commercial Tire and Service. The rescue needs some new tires, and that's $2,874. And that's the payroll and warrants and
Thank you.
purchase orders.
And then under correspondence, we just want to remind that all town offices are closed on June 19th, which is tomorrow, in observance of the holiday. And we will reopen on Thursday, June 20th at 9 a.m. We don't have any other business. Upcoming town committee and board meetings. The Conservation Commission meeting will be tomorrow, on Thursday, June 20th at 5:30 p.m. Community Day Committee meeting on Monday, June 24th at 6 p.m. Planning Board meeting on Wednesday, June 26th at 7 p.m. And the Select Board meeting on Wednesday, July 3rd at 7 p.m.
We still looking for volunteers for Community Day?
Yes, sir. We're always looking for volunteers for Community Day. We need some volunteers to help us with the games and the prizes and all kinds of things. And Bennett has an announcement.
I forgot to add to the agenda that we're looking for people to fill vacancies on the Planning Board and the Board of Appeals. Someone has stepped down on the Board of Appeals, so if anybody's interested, fill out an application or contact me directly.
So that's a lot of committees. You could have an
A lot.
opportunity to participate in town politics. So you got the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, the 5-member Select Board and Town Manager Hiring Committee, the Planning Board, and the Board of Appeals. So please do fill out applications. We'd love to have you. I don't think any of those committees are a whole bunch of work. So, anybody on the public on Zoom? Any other comments from the peanut gallery?
Peanut gallery. Nice.
Thank you so much, Bennett, for reminding of that we still had those openings.
Yes.
So, Jack's up.
I would just say be careful with this heat wave coming upon us and make sure that if you leave your pets in the vehicle, don't with this heat, even with the windows open. That's all I have to say.
Because there's really no wind and
Nothing.
there's
So-
nothing to protect them,
Yep.
and you'll have dead animals.
Right, yep.
Yep. And
Leave
if-
any toddlers in a vehicle. On that note, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Yeah, and along with that, make sure if you have elderly neighbors, especially during the heat, you're checking on them.
Check on them.
And I'm seconding Jack's motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.